Hey YouTube, this is the 511 double duty Karambit folding knife. Right now it does have two blades. I'll show you the secondary blade a little later, but the primary blade, it's AUS 8 Japanese stainless steel. The blade length is 3.7 inches. As you can see, combo edge is your only option. It is a clip point tip design. Alright, partial hollow grind, a very large opening hole. Alright, and it is a lockback, and the handle scales are FRN. Alright, now double blade folding designs, a lot of people get freaked out when they see it, but actually historically, this is certainly not the first time that a company has attempted to make a folder with two blades, one coming out each end. I remember there was a knife called the Dyad, and I know Smith & Wesson has some double blade folders like that. And usually those folders are not too good because they have to make the handle just too wide. But this does a little better at that. The handle is not actually, overly wide. Alright, and there you see the mean little secondary blade. It is, obviously it's a forward swept tip. I measured it. It was 1.4 inches in blade length, and it is also AUS 8, right? And it locks via basically a liner lock, right? Now, it's interesting because as you see, the opening hole for the primary blade is actually the karambit hole for the secondary blade. Pretty innovative, I must say. Alright, so the serrations they give you are fairly sharp. Me personally, I would prefer if they gave you a choice of plain edge, but at least the serrations they give you are very, very sharp. Alright, now as far as cutting with this karambit, it doesn't... Alright, well it cut pretty well that time, but it doesn't really cut too well. Alright, see, that's more usually what it does. It pretty much rips. It doesn't really cut. It more rips like a giant serration, which is actually sometimes what you want for a karambit. But it's more something that you might use to open a package. You see, it pretty much just it'll pretty much just go right through a package, and also obviously against a hostile animal or human, it would be extremely effective for its size. Alright, here you see the FRN handle scales of the knife. It is kind of a dark green. It has these depressions here and a very deep finger choil there. It is pretty ergonomic, even a pinky ramp there. Now as far as the mechanics, as I said, it is a lockback. The primary is a lockback. Let me just depress that. And the opening hole is very easy to use. It opens very easily. Alright. Now, the secondary blade, right there, it opens via thumb stud, and it opens really easily for a small blade. Right now you see that is the liner lock mechanism right there, and I actually just depress it by pressing it there. I found that that's easier. Alright, so you see that. Now, someone asked me how strong the detent is. In other words, can you spin it like you would spin a karambit? Well, here, let me show you. Hold on. No, you can't. Did you see that? I basically spun it and it comes out. So no, you definitely do not want to. You don't want to spin this, and if you do, you probably will cut yourself. Yeah, don't try that at home. I'm a trained professional. But yeah, you can't really spin it like you would. You can't really do tricks with it like you would, except for that one trick of opening it by spinning it. Alright, as I said, the primary blade is about 3.7 inches in blade length. Right, so here's a size comparison with the Bird Cara 2. As you can see, pretty much almost exactly the same overall size and pretty much the same blade length as the Kara 2. All right, so and those are both pretty much the same size as the Spyderco Endura. All right, so that should give you a good idea of the scale of the knife. It would be in the medium-large category. It's a little bit bigger than you would consider, or that most would consider everyday carry. All right, it's medium-large tactical. Now, as far as the size of the secondary blade, if you used it as a karambit, well, it is very small. Okay, this would be very small for a karambit. This is actually a copy of a 511 karambit. It's not the real one, but it's it's a cheaper copy, but it's about the same size. All right, and this is a pretty small fixed blade karambit, and you can see, all right, the double duty karambit is actually, it's even a lot smaller, all right, than this already small fixed blade clone of a 511 karambit. So, it's extremely small, although I gotta admit it's incredibly nasty for its size. Alright, but there's a little karambit size comparison. There you see the pocket clip. It comes right side carry tip up for the primary blade, and you see it can be switched to there, alright, and also to there. So it is a 3-position pocket clip. Now, as far as actually using this as a folding karambit, sadly, I'm not really happy with the curve of the handle. In a real karambit, alright, the karambits I like anyway, the handle kind of curves too. You see, you see there, the handle curves. Whereas you look at the spine of this, not really much of a curve except at the end. Right, you see the difference in the curve of the handle? The curve on this karambit is what I would consider to be an ideal curve to put the blade where I want it. Alright, this is a fox fighting karambit. The curve on this karambit is not ideal to me because, as you can see, because of that curve, instead of being more forward, it's actually slanted backwards. So to bring this into play, I actually have to twist my wrist, which is not strong or efficient, okay? Compare this to the real good karambit. Holding it naturally, the blade is way forward. It's not pointing backward, it's way forward. Whereas again, this way, look how far the blade is. The blade is not here, the blade is right there. So I definitely don't like that, as far as, I just don't like this in the reverse grip, which is the traditional grip. Alright, but it is a different story in this grip, which is probably how most people would use it, because most people probably, have not trained in traditional karambit use anyway. So most Western people would probably actually just use it in this grip, and it feels a lot more comfortable in this grip. You see, they even have the texture and a thumb ramp right there. All right, so you can do precision cuts. This is basically kind of a saber grip, but your finger in the karambit hole, little extra security. All right, so basically I like it as far as using this grip, controlled cuts, very powerful draw cuts. I mean, this could really mess someone up, and great utility, obviously. So basically, yeah, kind of a half and half. I like it in this grip, but I don't really like it in the traditional grip. So yeah, in fact, I would almost, instead of calling this a karambit, I personally would just call it like a utility hook or a utility cutter. All right. So what do I think of this knife? I think of it as kind of like an Endura or Kara 2 that happens to have a little utility hook cutter in the pommel. If you think of it like that, you won't be disappointed. It's basically a medium-large knife that just happens to have a little utility cutter in the pommel, which could be very useful. On the other hand, if you're looking for a full-blown tactical folding karambit, you're probably going to be disappointed because the karambit blade is pretty small, and as I said, the curve of the handle, it's not ideal for reverse grip. Alright, so hopefully I've given this knife a fair and balanced review. Well, you know, they're trying to be innovative. I give them props for that. As for the actual knife, I would rate it as maybe a B or a B plus. I definitely think they should come down in the price a little. But nonetheless, I had to review this knife because, I mean, just look at it. People are going to wonder what the heck is up with this knife. Well, now you know. Stay tuned for many more videos. I'm out of here.